Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation,
under
under God, indivisible,
liberty,
with
liberty and justice
for all. Okay, we do not have any public comments tonight, nor do we have any recognition or presentations. Our first order of business is the acceptance of the annual budget vote and election results. Do I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Nancy.
So I have motions from a variety of people. I hear Nancy first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Any discussion on any of that? Okay, all in favor?
I'd like to say it was interesting how we had such a large turnout with all the mailing out.
basically the same kind of result we would have expected.
Yes, yes.
That part surprised me.
Yes, that did too.
Other than thanking Julie and everyone else for all of their hard work, I don't have anything else to add. I do have a little token of my appreciation from all of us for you here, Julie, that I will give to you hopefully at our next meeting when we see each other in person.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes 5-0. Moving on to approval of regular minutes from the June 2nd meeting and the special board meeting minutes of June 5th. Yeah. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move.
Sure.
So, first by Russ, second by Brian.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to board level committees, just as a reminder to everyone, we need to have our year-end report submitted to Julie in time for the packet for the reorganization meeting. I do not have anything new from district improvement, nor do I have anything new from board development. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I don't have anything for board level committees.
Okay. All right. Moving on to board level activities. Monroe County School Boards Association. I have been attending board president meetings. The most recent meeting was Dr. Mendoza. I don't know if that was before our last meeting or after. I don't know. Everything's kind of a blur lately. I will double check to make sure. I don't know if I forwarded the notes from that meeting to Julie. I may not have. It was more of a question and answer kind of question, just to kind of get his thoughts. And I'll let the biggest thing that I think that I took away from that, it wasn't, and I think he said this in public by now, it's not a matter of if schools are going to reopen. It was just a matter of what they're going to look like in the fall when they do open. So that was my biggest takeaway, but I will forward those notes on to you guys when we're done with this meeting. Anybody else got anything from board level activities? There's also that survey going around out there to make sure you guys, they're looking for your input on how the meetings will look going forward. So if you get a chance, please provide your input there.
I do have 2 items. I've been invited to be part of the Monroe County School Board Steering Committee, and I will be presenting at the board governance seminar that's being held in July. I believe that's an in-person thing right now.
Is that the required training?
I believe so.
Awesome. Thank you, Nancy. Anything else? Okay, we will move on to new business, the consent portion of the meeting. I believe starts on page 2 and runs through the bottom of page 8 with the addendum. move forward on the consent portion of the meeting.
Can you repeat that, Mark? You went mute for a minute.
I'm just looking for a motion on the consent portion of the meeting. Goes from page 2 to the bottom of page 8.
So
Plus the
moved.
addendum.
Plus the addendum. Yep.
So
So
moved.
move. All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Russ. Thank you. Any discussions on the consent portion of the meeting? Okay. All in favor of the consent portion of the meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The consent portion passes 5-0. Moving on to new business. We have a number of bids. Can we take all these bids together?
I'll make a motion that we take the bids together.
All
Second.
right. Second. All in favor of taking all the bids together? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now a motion to accept the bids. Or
So moved.
all right. Second,
Second.
by
Second.
Russ. All in favor of accepting all of the bids together?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to other. We have we'll take these separately. We have the approval of the engagement letter for legal services. Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Do I have a second? So I had first by Brian, second by Russ. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor of the approval of the engagement of the letter for legal services, raise.
Aye. Nancy.
Aye, Mark.
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
And, all right, so we have 4 and with 1
401.
abstention. 401. All right, moving on to recommendations for approval of annual authorization for reserve and interfund transfers. So number 2 under other.
So moved, Nancy.
Still moved by Nancy. Do I have a second?
You do?
All right, by Tom. Any discussion on the authorization for reserve and interfund transfers? Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye, Mark. We all set there?
And Mark, I just wanted to chime in on, I think we missed one of the contracts and agreements or the transportation under the bid section, item 3. Just want to make sure.
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That wasn't technically a bid. All right, so we need to move back to contracts and agreements. Approval of the 2020-2021 Monroe One BOCES transportation contract. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved by Russ. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Second by Tom. Any discussions or questions for Adam? Okay, all in favor of the approval of the 2020-21 Monroe BOCES transportation contract?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes 5-0. All right, now let's get back on track. So now we're on the approval of the bus bond resolution, number 3. Do I have a motion to approve the bus bond?
So moved.
First by
Brian.
Brian, second by
Second, Nancy.
Nancy. Thank you. Any questions about the bus bond resolution? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approval of the bus bond resolution? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. 5-0. All right, number 4 is the recommendation for approval of the option and right of entry East Ave and Bennett Road Highway Improvement Project. Is there anything you want to add to that, Adam?
Yeah, I can just give a brief overview. So this is in relation to the work that we're doing in conjunction with the capital project. This was actually something that is through the Department of Monroe County Department of Transportation related to the traffic signal. They need to have 3 easements on our property in order to service that once it's complete. So they put this agreement together in order to do that. So we run it through Harris Beach. They were comfortable with it. They put a nominal dollar amount of $1 for each easement, which is standard for these types of contracts between municipalities.
Any further discussion or questions?
Will that dollar be collected via cash or check?
We're going to ask them to give us some rolled pennies.
There we go.
Okay, all in favor of approving the option and right of entry for the East Ave Bennett Road Highway Improvement Project?
Aye.
Did we do a motion first?
I thought I did, but we can certainly do that again.
Julie, did we have a motion? No. Okay.
No. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Nancy. Do I have a motion to
Moved.
approve? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Any further discussion from Adam? All right. All in favor of the recommending the approval of the option and right of entry for East Ave Bennett Road Highway Improvement Project?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, moving down the agenda, I believe the next item is the recommendation for approval to close inactive student accounts. So this would be the closure of the WAVE student account at the high school. Do I have a motion to accept that recommendation?
So
So
moved.
move, Nancy.
Thank you. So I'll have a first by Nancy, second by Tom. Any discussion, any questions on that one? Okay. All in favor of approving to close the inactive school account?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 5-0. I believe that is it. That moves us on to administrative reports.
All right.
Chris.
Thank you very much. Start out by congratulating the class of 2020. What a wild end of the year it was for them, for sure. We celebrated the graduates on WUHF this past Saturday, and our ceremony went from 5:30 until 7 o'clock. With all being said, it being virtual, I thought it was a great celebration. If you didn't get a chance to see it, the link is on our website, so you can take a look at that. I wanted to thank Dr. Green, Mrs. Schneider, Mr. D'Amico, Mr. Legault, Mrs. Malta, Mrs. Sism, and Mr. Paleo, who is the videographer that we work with from Monroe to BOCES. Just an outstanding job in putting together a very classy presentation. So it'll never replace an in-person graduation, but it was pretty slick for sure. And I also want to thank the families of our graduates and our graduates for their patience as we try our best to make it as celebratory as possible under the current conditions. This week we're celebrating our athletes. So you'll see a lot on Twitter. Mr. Jaritzi has put together his cadet appreciation celebration, and that's being pushed out through different social media venues. So top notch, just as we honored our spring sport athletes as well. We've begun the transition for Mr. D'Amico to the principalship of Merton Williams. We've been spending some time with him. He should be in his new office very soon. Also working with Mrs. Zabadel in her transition to the Director of Reporting and Compliance. She's playing a large role in helping to organize and research best practices for reopening, along with Dr. Surash and the Rapid Response Team. And also we are transitioning Julie Forgione and Liz Thornton officially into their positions. They've been transitioning for about the last 3-4 months, maybe a year, into those new positions. So we're really excited for them to be in their official capacity. I'd like to thank the community for supporting the budget and the transportation proposition. And I'd like to thank Adam Geis, Jeremy Nardone, Julie Norris, Josh Ennis, and Grace Sism for all the work that they did around preparing for the budget vote, and then conducting the budget vote. We did it in a really good way. We took our time. Slow and steady often wins the race. And we were able to make sure that the community felt very good about the valid vote count. Using 2 machines from Livingston County and live streaming the budget vote was a very positive thing. It was full transparency, so very pleased with that. And I'd also like to take the time to congratulate Mary Ann Chafee and Brian O'Connor for their re-election. Looking forward to continue working with them on behalf of the governance team. And then what I'd like to do now is give you an update on where we are with our district reopening planning. So you can see Josh is pulling a PowerPoint up for us. Thank you, Josh. The first piece that we want to talk about is the fact that it is truly a puzzle. And a puzzle is probably an understatement. It's going to be more like a Rubik's Cube or some of those other games when you move one piece, the other piece moves. So you'll see here, these are the subcommittees that we put together. We have food service and nutrition, students and schedules, physical space, transportation, student and employment, safety point of care, and testing and health. So what we've done to this point is we've put out several thought exchanges. We've had a thought exchange out to our community to hear what our community has to say about reopening, some of their concerns, some of their questions. We also did that with our staff as well. Most recently, we sent out a survey as well on who intends to send their students back to school. So this week, what we were able to do, and we'll be notifying people in the very near future on what committee they're going to serve if they volunteered. We went through a facilitator training. So we had Mike Ford, who currently works from the University of Rochester. You've met him before. He's facilitated some board work for some of us, and he helped lead us through a training of facilitators for the individuals that'll be facilitating those subcommittees. So that was great. And I'll be sending you in the Friday Confidential some additional data points from the thought exchange if you'd like to see that and be able to analyze that on your own. So this is the staff. This is a word bubble. This is one of the ways the thought exchange makes a clean visual for you to see what's important for staff. The bigger words mean that they've been starred more frequently and are a bigger thought or concern of our staff. So you can see supplies and cleaning of the facilities, and then also washing hands. And you could see as the words get smaller, they were less of a focus and received less stars in their rating through the thought exchange. So just to give you the quantitative information, we had 341 participants. We currently employ just over 900 individuals. So that kind of can help you gauge who took the time to share their feedback. Out of those 341 participants, we had 458 share thoughts. And then as you've used Thought Exchange before, you can go in and rate the comments that you support or don't necessarily support. And you can see that we had just over 15,000 ratings happen on those 458 thoughts. So the top 5, and I'll send you the entire document so that you have the opportunity to look at it if you're interested. So the question was, what are your thoughts and concerns as the district develops our reopening plan? Supplies was number 1. Teachers need access to good facial tissues, paper towels, and general cleaning supplies. The number of cleaning staff should be increased. PPE, there's definitely a concern on what will be provided, what will be expected. And then the planning for reopening needs to look different at each of the different levels, elementary, middle, and high school. So there have been a lot of thoughts, and you'll see a lot of crossover too with the community feedback that they definitely want to see our K-6 students back in person. They're a little more flexible. I think they want our high school students. Everybody wants everything to go back to normal. So let's just put that aside. But they would be more tolerant if we were to move forward with maybe a split schedule at the high school. It's really, it does boil down a lot to childcare. And as we reopen and individuals going back to work, making sure that their children can come to school, and more of a comfort level of some of the older students being able to do some things on their own if necessary. And then you'll see under staffing, sick day protocols and really what that looks like. So there's a lot of work to be done, but this just really quickly highlights the top 5 thoughts of the staff. And like I said, I'll give you that additional information this Friday. So then you look at very similar word bubble as well, and you'll see under the community, you're going to see mental health is a very big concern for our community. They realize that being in lockdown or quarantine has had a negative impact on their students. They value the social and emotional aspect of what school districts provide for students, and that goes hand in hand with the word interaction. Wanting to make sure that they have interaction with their teachers and their support staff, and also fellow students. And then you can see washing hands is going to be extremely important. Some sense of normalcy. Learning is clearly important over to the right, and you can see that sanitizer and moving kind of further out to those smaller words have shared some of their less rated concerns. So community participation, we do have a very large community. We have 4,500 students, so imagine how many parents and guardians and families we have. So out of that group, we had 911 participants. This was sent out multiple times in Friday communication with the families. I also sent a standalone email the last week before we closed out the thought exchange, just for folks who got concerned about being able to pull that out of a communication that had multiple communication points in it. Out of that, you had 1,250 thoughts, and what's real interesting, the number of ratings. You have close to 37,000 ratings. So people who are interested in having input took the time to give this input. And I just want to remind everyone, this is one data point. We've been continuing to take a look at some of the other best practices and other research out there, whether it's from Germany or some of the other states who have reopened and have a plan in place. So our main themes in the top 5 for the community is, once again, that I touched on this already, the social, emotional, and face-to-face learning. If that is possible, we clearly want to do that. If it comes with different factors such as masking and social distancing, we still want to make sure that we're bringing kids back together if possible. The next one is people recognizing that there are going to be changes. So sometimes we get concerned that people aren't going to realize that things are going to look different and they're going to look the same. But even though things are going to look different, they're concerned for our students' mental health. And another top priority is hand washing. And we believe that we could do some simple things to really support. I'm going to exaggerate a little bit here, but it may be a classroom hand washing, every couple hours, or some of the regular hand hygiene amped up a little bit that we would want everybody to practice. I think COVID has really given us a great reminder. I believe I read somewhere, if we use the hand cleansing techniques that we've implemented for COVID-19, the common strain of the flu would be much less than it currently is, because people just don't tend to wash their hands. So being very thoughtful in how we make sure that we have those practices. The community was very pleased with the opportunity to share their thoughts, and they want to have a balance of safety without stressing out the students further. And that'll clearly be a balancing act, but those are the main threads from the community at this point in time. So the font's a little small in this. You have this document already, but this really, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the structure. So you're going to see an overarching governance team, which is the COVID-19 Rapid Response Team. On that team is the executive leadership, the Board of Education president, the president of the Teachers Association, and also the SRPs. Tracy Zabadel, who is taking a lead with some of our planning, and then also the vice presidents of the associations as well. So really the thought process for that overarching committee is to have each one of these subcommittees share out their work with that committee, and there'll be a feedback cycle. We're going to be meeting this week with the facilitators of each of those committees to set the expectation. And I'll give a very quick example. I may have given it in the past, and I apologize. But food service and nutrition team, we're really not going to be asking people their input on the menus. And so it's not, is it going to be pizza and fish sticks or peanut butter and jelly? It's going to be, if we serve lunches to the students in a self-contained classroom, how are we going to do that? How are we going to get the food there? How are we going to clean up after? There's going to be contractual stipulations. How do we cover that teacher's lunch that they have the right to in their contract? So that'll be some of the work that comes out of there. We are starting our two first teams that we're going to actually build the foundation with are the physical space team and the student employee safety point of care testing and healthcare teams. We feel if we establish a pretty good foundation there, that we should be able to have the other three teams start to chime in. And in that first slide, you saw the puzzle pieces. We realize that none of these are going to stand alone. There can be a decision made in one committee that's going to impact another committee. So we have to be very fluid with that. Another point is we realize that we will be getting guidance at some point in time from New York State and also from the State Education Department. But we feel that it's vital for the Hilton community to get this work started. We will be setting an artificial timeline, which we'll be able to monitor and adjust. We're really looking to have a large chunk of that work done by the third week in July. So at that time, we would be in a holding pattern and wait for final guidance from the state. And then we would hopefully be able to tweak a few things here or there and not have to start from scratch. But as you know, things can change quickly, especially with the way that the governor sometimes communicates that information. And then really what we would plan on in August is an all-out communication blitz as far as policy, procedure, and getting information out to families. We're looking to put together an online guide for families and then also a mailer that would go home so that everyone would be clear on what the expectations come September. And also the COVID rapid response team is called that because we realize that we are preparing multiple parallel scenarios and that we may get back in September and have to go into a 4-week quarantine in October. But we want to be able to mobilize these folks so that we can move very quickly in that decision making. And you can also see on each of those teams, if you're interested, and I know many of you have shared with me, we'll be letting you know what subcommittee that you're serving on. And we really appreciate your perspective into some of those decisions that'll be made. So that's just kind of the overview of where we're at. So we're hitting the ground running. We're hoping to be thoughtful with this process, but also the summer's going to go much quicker than anybody would want it to as you're planning for reopening. And I'll continue to keep you updated. My goal is whether at our next meeting or even if we have to schedule a special meeting, being able to give you that executive report so you can ask any questions that you might have before we go live with the reopening plan. So that's what I have for my report. I know I can answer any questions for you, and then also I know the census report is going to come up, and I'll very briefly share with you the census numbers. So the census numbers here that you're seeing are really nothing out of the ordinary, almost to a T. Sometimes it's kind of eerie the way that the trend data plays itself out. So we're in June 17th, we're at 4,405. Yes, it is a decline from starting at 4,434, but we usually see a very similar attrition. And I'll put a dollar on it that we're going to be at 4,434 at the reopening of the school year as well, even with COVID-19, because we will be looking at different options of delivering instruction. But really no surprises there, nothing out of the ordinary. And that's what I have for you guys tonight.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Stork? Okay, moving on to Mr. Geis.
So as you can imagine, and I'm sure Julie can attest, we've been spending a lot of time on the budget vote. And so congratulations, everybody. It is truly a team effort. So we are very pleased that we got through that in this unusual time. So I got a couple updates from some of the other areas that are under my purview. So B&G, their staff is back in full, working full time, starting the summer cleaning. Mark Edwards and Mike Geruzzi and I met with Tom Venero from the town of Parma to begin conversations regarding our summer programming. So they have a summer daycare program that they typically operate out of our district and a whole host of other camps. That's going to be scaled back this summer, for obvious reasons, but we're working on plans with him and all the guidelines that they have to follow in order to make that a reality. And then a couple quick updates just on the capital project. We are ahead in some areas, we're behind in some areas. Some of it is related to some backlogs in items related to COVID when we had plants that were shut down, etc. But we're still progressing nicely. You've seen pictures, or if you've had a chance to get over to the high school, you've seen the softball field. There's a ton of construction going on at the bus loop. I drove by on Saturday night, and there was a gentleman who was still working at 6 o'clock on Saturday doing some work out in front of the high school. Science classrooms are also progressing nicely, as well as the team room and locker rooms as well. So Northwood, that's not as visible, a lot of behind the scenes items with the HVAC upgrades that are going on there, but still important work. Security, this year they will be working during the summer. They're going to be supporting our buildings while they still remain partially closed, as well as supporting the capital project and some of the supervision that's required for that. We've worked with BOCES, both Monroe 1 and Monroe 2, and tomorrow security will be taking a trip out to BOCES 2. They secured masks for all Monroe County districts, so we are entitled to 2 cases of masks, so we're going to be picking those masks up for our use as well. And then food service, they're going to continue serving meals throughout this month, ending on June 30th. We are not planning on going forward with a July or August program. There are several districts in the county that do, and they can take, community members from Hilton in their respective districts. So I believe on the west side, I believe Greece serves during the summer, as well as Gates. And I know East Arundequite, I think East Rochester do on the east side. So that's kind of what's going on in the areas that I'm responsible for. Be happy to answer any questions.
I have 2 questions. One, what's the expected time frame for the front loop being completed? And regarding the serving lunches, is Cadet Cupboard or Hilton Food Shelf kind of taking on some of that the capacity?
So I'll start with the bus loop in the front. So that is one of the areas that's on schedule. So that will be done and open prior to the start of school in September. We're anticipating that it'll be done late August. We're hoping before the Labor Day holiday for sure. It is a lot of coordination though. So we have our site contractor who is the one that's putting in the granite curbs and the sidewalks and did all of the tear out and under drainage for the asphalt to go back in. And then, working with the contractor through Monroe County Department of Transportation in order to coordinate the traffic signal. So that is progressing nicely. We meet weekly with our contractor, our site contractor, and we are meeting every 2 weeks, which I anticipate on that going weekly soon for the folks with Monroe County. So that one is one of the items that are on track that we're obviously anxious to have complete, but also looking forward to the end result for that. As far as the cadet cupboard, I'm not actually sure on that. So that's something that I'll have to check into. I think typically they have done some summer feeding programs. So I anticipate that will happen again. It'd be great if they could ramp it up under the given circumstances, but I don't have, quantities or any other information, on who they would be serving. But I can get some more information and send that out via email to the board.
Great, thank you, Adam.
And to add to Adam's point, the governor has signed into law a food credit for families that are working through food insecurities. So it's $480 for each minor in your household, and that has already gone into effect. That is not something that you have to sign into. They are working off some of the data that school districts have.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. All right, moving on to Scott.
Okay, so in the Office of Human Resources, we're kind of in a transitional state, as is the entire district. We are assisting our retirees as they transition from employees to retirement, giving them the supports they need to make sure they're set up for coverage for post-retirement medical and things of that sort. We are wrapping up some investigations. I think were shared with you in the confidential memo that went out. So we're reviewing, analyzing, looking at the analysis of that report and looking at the findings, and then starting to put together a communication plan to share that with pertinent staff so they're aware of what those findings were and what the recommendations are. Last week, Mark and Casey, thank you. Your parts of the district retirement and service award recognition were done in a very positive way. We've heard lots of feedback from our retirees thanking us for being so thoughtful in this difficult time, but to recognize them for their service to the district. And I think it's important for me to point out there were some key players in that. Brittany Nasruddin, she kind of took the lead with that. She had support from Christina Clamo and Betsy Forjone. And then at the end, Grace Sism helped put the presentation together so we could go live last Thursday. So that worked out really well. Primary work in the HR office, I think, is reflective in 6 or 8 of these pages, maybe through the consent agenda. As you can see, we're hiring people. People are still retiring. People are asking for leaves. We're appointing extra advisorship positions. And then additionally, I provided you with the hiring scorecard so you can see where we are, what vacancies we have, the status of those vacancies. That's something that's really keeps us focused. And so we understand where our vacancies lie and where we are in terms of filling those jobs. So that's pretty much what's happening in HR. Do you have any questions?
Hi, Scott. I have just one question. What's the status of the assistant principal at the high school? Is that by August or,
well,
I don't know where it is in the process.
They are in the midst of screening applicants as we speak, both paper and then in person. They have interviews set up. I know that there's cabinet interviews set up for next week. So we'll hopefully have someone available to bring to the board to the first meeting in July and hopefully get them started ASAP, depending on who they are. If someone working in another district that's 12-month, we'll be required to give them their 30-day if that district chooses to keep up to 30 days. But if it's a teacher coming out of the classroom that doesn't work over the summer, we'll be somewhat flexible. We want to make sure we can get them in there to start doing our work, but at the same time, we want them to leave on a real positive note in the organization they'll be transitioning from as they enter Hilton. So we'll give them supports along the way so they can do that. But hopefully we'll have someone in place sometime early August.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? Just thanks for your support. I think we've gone through a lot in the last few months, and I know the Office of Human Resources are very appreciative of your support. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Moving on to Stark Rush.
Hi. I just want to give you an update as far as the work that we're doing in the Office of Instruction for the instructional reopening. We were able to work with the business office to make sure that we could secure computers for all, so all of our students will be one-to-one preparing for next year. We also surveyed the connectivity or the internet for all of our families in the district. Over 3,500 families were called to find out about that, and I think it's about 2% have some internet issues, and so we're going to be looking at what we need to do for that. I met with all of the program coordinators so that we could talk about moving back into next year and what actually needs to be done in all of their content areas, and we're going to be working with that in the summer day. We have been working, as I've been telling you, over the last couple of years by looking at essential standards for both ELA and math. We have essential standards pre-K through 12 in ELA and K through 8 in math. So what we are doing is we have created pre-assessments, common pre-assessments for all of our students for both reading and writing in ELA, grades 1 through 12, and our pre-assessments in grades 1 through 8 for math Our math teachers are currently at the high school participating in a staff development at BOCES to ascertain their essential standards in algebra, geometry, and algebra 2, and then we'll be looking at pre-assessments for that. That was based also on a survey we sent out to all of the teachers, so all of our ELA and math teachers were able to give us input on the standards that they think we should assess to make sure for gaps as students come back. We also put together, we're in the process of putting together computer readiness for our students. So if we come back and then we have to leave, that our students are more adept at using their computers. With respect to the Teacher's Summer Day, we are going to make sure that all of our teachers have our Google Classroom up and going, and we're going to be providing all of those teachers Google Classroom support from our instructional techs. For the teachers who are not as comfortable with Google Classroom, we also have a summer professional development for that. We're also going to have the teachers take a look at all the pre-assessments that would make sure that they're ready to go when the students come back. We've decided to focus a lot on ELA and math at our elementary levels. So we took a look at some of our science kits that we get from BOCES, and we're reducing the science kits to 2 science kits for K through 5. And we asked our teachers to give us input on which of the ones that they would like to teach next year. As I reported out, I had conducted over 21 hours of work or meetings with teachers for input. I've completed that. I synthesized the report and I shared out the report at 2 different sessions. In addition, I've been looking at a number of reopening plans from other states. I've also reached out to people from different countries and things like that. But as far as in the states, they're starting to kind of come in right now. So I've already looked at North Carolina, Missouri, Washington, California. LA also has a separate one. Florida, Wisconsin, and Michigan, which is going to kind of guide us in looking at the plans that everybody else has to see what we can do and make sure that we address all of the issues and nothing is missed. So I've been spending a lot of time with that. I've also, though, this past week was invited to participate in an IB focus group. It was one of 10 groups across the world, and there were only 10 representatives, and I was one of them, so I was happy to be able to do that. And we focused on the diploma program and discussed modifications and support due to COVID. I also joined an equity access webinar. It was a panel discussion, and they focused on infusing equity into the curriculum, so that was very interesting and gave me some ideas of how we need to move forward in that area. And then these last couple of days, our school-related personnel have been participating in training. On Friday and Monday, we had 124 school-related personnel participate in positive learning environment. Today, we had 97 school-related personnel participating in a technology, and tomorrow, 59 of the school-related personnel will also be continuing to participate in a technology professional development. So that's all I have right now, if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Strash.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to closing up here. Under additional agenda items, I would just like to bring up, I spoke to most of you today about possibly moving back to in-person meetings coming for the reorg meeting. Does anybody want to share what input they gave on that, or would you like me to kind of summarize my conversations? I'd love to hear from some of you on your thoughts.
I'll go, Mark. Yeah, to me, I don't have any reservations as long as we do this in a a socially distanced, safe manner. I assume we can spread out at least 6 feet, wear masks till we're seated. And with that in mind, I'm all for it. I think it would be nice to get back together.
I concur with Tom.
I can assure that for you guys. So I'm sorry, Russ. I'll make sure we've already scoped out the auditorium at Quest. I can follow up with Julie tomorrow, and we can take a look at that social distancing, hand sanitizer, and masking as well.
I would agree with Tom. getting together is, I think, is a lot more valuable than the environment. But, you know, obviously, you know, as long as we do it in a safe, you know, manner, I have no problem with it.
I would just recommend that perhaps executive session take place in the boardroom so that we kind of, you know, we can all spread out throughout that room and it'll still be private. I'm not sure that the auditorium as a whole is conducive to executive session, but I'm fine with meeting. It'll be nice to see everybody.
So I spoke with Mary Ann and Therese, and they both agreed. Similar discussions to what you guys have been sharing tonight. So that being said, it looks like we're all set to see each other again in person in the auditorium. So thank you, Julie, with making sure we're ready to go with that. So one last thing, I would just make sure we plan on having some time in the boardroom before that reorg meeting, probably about an hour, Julie. And I will follow up with an email to everyone else about that. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, these have been fun. I can't say I'm going to miss doing this from my kitchen, looking at my tiny agenda on my phone since I don't have a printer. But we made it, and I appreciate all of you guys in district that did everything to keep the wheels of motion moving us forward. It's definitely been a learning experience for all of us, and I can't thank all of you for all the support, all the board members, everybody in district. We got a lot of challenges of facing us, and I'm proud to be working with all of you guys in this unprecedented time. So with that being said, does anybody have anything else to add? Okay, all in favor of agending our last Zoom meeting of this school year?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Adjourning. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You do.
All right, Russ, second by, I think Tom was in there too. All right, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I will see you in the Quest Auditorium in a few weeks. Happy 4th of July.